Yeah, not a whole lot new to report since the last time we met with you guys. Just full go into practice. We're obviously every day that passes, we're a day closer to the season. I think our entire team organization's ready to get on the field and start playing. So happy to answer any questions.
All right, raise your hand. I'll call on you. Start with Colin. Oh, you're on mute, Colin.
Sorry, rookie mistake there.
And like it's not your first Zoom, Colin.
I know, right? It's been a long morning trying to get some stories cranked out. I was up late covering basketball. So I'm just curious, now that you've had a couple scrimmages, where do you see maybe that center field competition? And what do you kind of make of the shortstop battle between Michael Robinson and George Khalil so far?
Yeah, they're all still battling for positions. You know, again, until we put out an opening day lineup, I want these guys all still competing hard because we may be leaning a certain direction in some spots, but it's close. You know, George Khalil has had a really, really good spring for us. He's taken that next step, and Michael Robinson also is right there with him and makes every play out there at shortstop. So, you know, I feel good about that position. Center field is a position where Noah Myers struggled in the fall, but he's having a great spring. Brandon Fields had a very solid fall, but he struggled a little bit this spring. And Braylon Wimmer is a guy we've talked about before that has just elevated his game in every area. A lot of it due to strength, a lot of it due to increased maturity. So all three of those guys are very strongly in the mix. So we've got another week of inter-squad games to let it continue to sort out. But even as we get to opening day, I mean, you're not going to run the same lineup out there 70 times this year. We're going to have a variety of lineups. So the good thing is we have options.
Greg Hadley.
Yeah, Mark, going off of that, how do you look at the first base position? Is West locked in there, or do you look at maybe moving him around to get some other guys in?
No, David Mendham right now has taken hold of that position based on how he's performed this spring. He's crushed the ball all spring, and he provides left-handed bat, which we sorely need. So I would say right now, David Mendham is very strongly in charge of that position. But again, like everybody else, you have to try to earn a position, but you also need to maintain it by continued good performance. Wes Clark is still in the mix, but he's more of a catcher right now for us than he is a first baseman. And then obviously we can always move other guys. There's Wimmer we can move over there. Joe Satterfield is very capable of giving you solid play at first base. So it's another position I feel like we have options.
All right, John Whittle.
Anybody look different to you on the mound in terms of improvement from the end of the fall until now after the first few scrimmages?
You know, that's a good question. I should grab the stat sheet and look at it. I mean, I wouldn't say, I mean, the guy that stands out maybe that comes to mind first in terms of improvement is Will Sanders has taken that next step. He was very good during the fall, but he's even taken another step so far this spring. I mean, he was a guy in the fall, that was in that 92 to 94. Now he's in the 94 to 95. And he's just a guy that you just, every time he pitches, he seems like he gets a little bit better. And because of his body, because of his work ethic, there's just so much projection in there that the sky's the limit with that kid. And so he, because of his work ethic, has really made some nice strides from the fall. And then there's other guys that have made good, steady progress. But in terms of anybody that jumps off the page, I would say he's the guy that you say is kind of jumping off the page right now.
Colin?
Mark, I guess Thomas Farr, it feels like he hasn't thrown a full season in what feels like forever. I'm just curious, how excited are you to see him kind of hopefully get a full season in this year? And when you guys were recruiting him, what stood out when you were able to actually watch him play before he obviously had that injury?
Well, yeah, very excited to watch him pitch for a whole season. He's very talented. He's a bulldog competitor. He works extremely hard. So, you know, the assistants are the ones that evaluated him in the recruiting process and identified him. So it may be a better question for them in terms of, you know, what they saw when they evaluated Thomas Farr. But we knew all along that the word got back, you know, is that it's a power arm, it's a competitor, it's everything we have seen so far is what they were seeing in that recruiting process. So, yeah, I'm anxious to see what he can do because I think knock on wood, he can do some real special things.
Phil?
That was quicker than I thought. Mark, have you gotten the contracts and everything signed with Texas for that weekend series? Is that now official?
We have not gotten that signed contract yet. That is of no worry to anybody, but our policy here at South Carolina is that you don't make anything officially into a release until you have the signed contract. So that's why you haven't seen an official release yet. They have put it out there on their end, on their official schedule release. So it's just a matter of logistics at this point. But that is a series that we will play and that I think will be great for college baseball.
Greg?
Mark, when you look at Will Sanders and Matt Cotto and some of these freshmen that have been impressive so far, do you like them more in the bullpen, kind of getting limited innings where they can kind of flash their stuff more, or do you want to get them more in the midweek to get more innings?
That's to be determined. They all, because of who we have as our 3 weekend starters right now, probably only one of them will get the opportunity in any given week to be the starter that week. So they're all going to pitch important innings. Who gets the start on a Tuesday? It could be any of them. It could be Sanders. It could be Phipps. It could be Mahoney. It could be Cotto. They're all extremely talented. And I think they all will get a lot of innings out of the bullpen because especially with our schedule, you've got to be as good as you can be at all times for every inning. And there may be some type of rotation where one guy starts Tuesday this week, then the next guy next week it's somebody else. A lot of that will play itself out as the season progresses. And you may see some Tuesday nights where you throw a bunch of guys an inning or two because we have a lot of talented guys that we're going to try to spread some innings and keep arms fresh over the course of the season. What my hope is that we don't have to really push anybody too much so that by the time you're getting to the end of the season, the part of the season where it really is, the memories are made and big games are played. I want everybody to be fresh and ready to go. So I think we're in a good spot where we can kind of work them in and not ask them to do too much early on. And that's how we'll go at it.
John?
Yeah, obviously Brandon and Thomas and Julian are all going to pitch big innings and start on the weekend at least to go. But that opening day start is something that a lot of people kind of cherish. What do you kind of look at in terms of evaluating those 3 guys for that opening day start? Have you made a decision and how much would this weekend worth of scrimmages kind of go towards making that call?
We haven't made a final decision. I think we have a good feel for where we're leaning at this point, and I wouldn't say anything that happens this weekend with those 3 guys will really steer our decisions in a different direction. We'll probably announce that weekend rotation early next week. We feel good about all of them. I think an argument could be made that any one of them could pitch on Friday. So that's a good position to be in. And whether we base it on experience, whether we base it on wanting to go right, left, right to mix it up on the weekend to make it harder on the opponent, whether we just go based on, what their statistics are in terms of just best ERA goes Friday, second goes Saturday, third goes Sunday, or whether we base that on other factors. We feel good about all 3 of them right now. So whatever order we go in, our emphasis to this team is going to be whether it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we need to win every game. We need to try to win every game. So every game is going to be important. So I understand, the prestige of pitching on a Friday night or pitching on opening day. It's special. So whoever gets that ball, I think they'll appreciate it and they'll make the most of it.
Tom?
Mark, you mentioned the Texas series. I know it's officially not official yet, but what made you want to schedule something like that, and how good do you think that's going to be not only for you guys but for the sport as a whole?
I think it'll be great for the sport as a whole. I mean, clearly it's a redo of 2002, and I think that's a really cool thing. I've already texted to Drew Meyer, and I'll probably text a couple of those other guys asking them if they want another shot. And so I think it's a good way to tie the past history with the present and the future, because it's a very important series and matchup in the course of our history, because it was a national championship matchup. So, that really attracted me. I thought it was an opportunity to show our team that we believed in them and that we want to take them out on the road and play against the best, because that's where we want to be. And that's where I think we're moving. So there were so many positives to it from an RPI standpoint. Obviously, it will be a tremendous RPI boost going on the road to play an opponent like that. So there were just too many reasons why, as we looked into it and the opportunity presented itself, we just thought, you know what, we're going to go after it. And I had, when it first came up, Coach Tanner and I were texting back and forth, and finally, you know, I made a text back to him that said, "Fortune favors the bold," and he said, "You know what, you're right, let's do it." So I think for a lot of reasons, it'll be a great series for us and for them and for college baseball.
Do you think that if it was a 3-game series back then, South Carolina would have come up with the national championship?
Well, I don't want to give them any bulletin board material right now, but all I will say is that both sides had some really, really good players back then. So it would have made it more interesting, probably.
John?
Do you or your coaches stress to Colin Burgess, and take nothing away from the backups, but do y'all stress to Colin just how important he is, not only from a physical and health standpoint, but just what he means to the pitching staff in terms of trying to keep him, focused on staying healthy and being in the right condition and that kind of thing because of what's going on at catcher behind him with Alex's injury?
Well, there's a fine line, and it's a good question, John. You don't want to baby players. You know, you don't want to baby them so much to where they become, they become fragile mentally or physically. So there's a fine line to be walked there. I will say Wes Clark has improved. I mean, weekly he's getting better. He's had a couple tough days this spring, but he's also had some really, really good days. And he's actually throwing at a level right now that's every bit as good as Colin Burgess. And the stats back that up. So there's a fine line. Burgess knows he's an important piece of this puzzle, but he also needs to know that, you know, we can't treat him with kid gloves all the time, and he's got to take care of himself, and you've got a pitching staff counting on you. But also Wes Clark is going to be an important factor back there too. So it's a fine line. You don't want to baby him, but you also want to be smart and not overtax guys as well, especially that position. So it's something we talk about daily, that you just want to walk that fine line of being smart, but also not babying them to where guys aren't at the right mindset.
And also as a follow-up, any kind of update on Alec, how he's kind of progressing in his frame of mind after going through what he's gone through?
Yeah, it's been tough for him. You know, it's when especially for a freshman this year during COVID. I mean, he missed his senior year because of COVID, and now he's missing his freshman year because of this injury. So that's tough to deal with. He's a competitor like all these guys are. And so it's something that, you know, will be a challenge, but I think the further he gets away from knowing he's not playing, the more he's starting to just understand this is just going to be another year where you have to grow mentally, try to get yourself better from a health standpoint. He's been dealing with the foot injury for a while now, and it just finally came to a head. And I think once he comes to the realization that when these surgeries are done, he'll be 100% and feel better than ever, and he'll be good to go going into next year. You know, I think it's he'll get to a good spot mentally. In the meantime, we're just going to make sure that he's learning as much about our program and the game, and can make a lot of mental strides during the course of this season.